Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Flag. I'm your host, Lukas Wacker, and with me, as always, we have Kyle Cushman. And welcome to one of the biggest weekends of the motorsports calendar. The Coca-Cola 600 is happening this weekend for NASCAR, and then, of course, the Indianapolis 500 for IndyCar. What a great way to get into the weekend here by giving you our preview episode. Indy back at its rightful place in the month of May for the Indianapolis 500, and of course, we have to round out the day. We have the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We don't have Monaco this week, happened last week, so not the triple threat of a day that we usually are accustomed to with these two motorsports events specifically, but we'll take two nonetheless. But we've got our fantasy preview in today's episode as well, getting you set up for the Indianapolis 500, and just a couple of news and notes to get to as well. But before we get into all of that, how you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing good. Yeah, I don't know. Can we still call it the greatest day in motorsports when it doesn't have Monaco to lead it off?
Two-thirds of the great day, I guess.
I don't really know. But anyways, it's a fantastic weekend nonetheless. I'm really, really looking forward to this one. You've got two of the biggest races in terms of the cachet that comes with winning that race. Obviously, the Indianapolis 500, arguably the biggest race in the world. It's my favorite race of the year. And then you've got the Coke 600, which is the longest race in NASCAR. The endurance it takes to win that race, both with the engine, the driver, everything involved. There's so many different opportunities for you to lose that race. So two really, really big races coming up this weekend, and very much looking forward to talking about both of these.
Yeah, 600 and 500 miles respectively. It's no joke for the drivers, and credit to all the drivers in the past that have pulled the double. I mean, that is just spectacular. 1,100 miles in one day is just ridiculous. But
Kurt Busch was the last one to try it, right?
I believe so.
2014 or whatever it was. But
yeah, I think so. I think it was 2014. Yeah, Kurt Busch. Tony Stewart did it 20 years to go to this kind of weekend. So it's been, we've seen a couple of guys. Hopefully we see a couple more in the future doing something like that, because it is pretty cool to see the helicopter come in, basically land on the infield grass at Charlotte and just have to get into the car right away. It's no joke, but don't have any of those cases this time around. But let's look at a couple of news and notes for what's happened over the past week. And we start off with Eddie DeHaan. Chase Elliott's spotter has been indefinitely suspended by NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports after he failed to meet the required 72-hour deadline of notice after being charged with a misdemeanor/felony. The details of it was a jet ski incident where he was, a bit upset that he didn't get the jet ski rental time that he was kind of supposed to get, because there was some sort of debacle with the jet ski, but I won't bother you with the entire details, but that's kind of the gist of it. So Eddie DeHaan, a guy that's been around for many, many years, at the top of the spotter stand, is no longer going to be there this weekend and for the indefinite future, maybe for the rest of his life, to be honest. We don't know. But for Chase Elliott, he's got a new spotter up there this weekend. Do you know his name, Kyle? I'm not 100% sure.
I actually didn't see who's replacing him this weekend, so I don't know the route they're going for that one, but in general, innocent until proven guilty, but the details of it aren't exactly glowing for Eddie DeHaan in terms of his character or anything like that. It's just a messy story, and it looks like somebody who had this happen a while back, actually, and kind of swept it under the rug, hid it from NASCAR, hid it from Hendrick Motorsports and everybody involved there, and just really just not pleasant situation. Like it's obviously not something you want to deal with mid-season or anything like that. When you're talking about a team like Chase Elliott, who are going for back-to-back championships, all this kind of stuff.
Off the back of a win.
Yeah, coming off of a win as well. So it's just a very strange situation. We'll see how things play out, but definitely not a great look for Eddie DeHaan and Hendrick Motorsports again here.
No, and we saw it with one of, I believe it was Kyle Larson's spotter in the offseason as well. They had an issue.
Chris Moniz, or
I believe so,
was his name or something like that. I can't remember if Moniz was the one who replaced him and is the current one or what it was, but
I don't believe he's the current one. I think I think that's his name. But yeah.
I can't remember. But anyways, they had the spotter issue earlier in the year with Kyle Larson, and it's just that one was much more do your due diligence and do your background checks and see who you're pairing up with Kyle Larson. versus this one where it does seem like it was a genuine some situation where somebody hid information from a bunch of people, as shown by the suspension, obviously for the arrest itself, but also for the failure to notify NASCAR and Hendrick Motorsports within the 72-hour window, all this kind of stuff. And hopefully it's not something that takes the headlines for a very long time. Hopefully it's something where Eddie DeHaan kind of goes away and stays away, but we'll see how everything plays out here.
Yeah, no more time is needed on that. Just wanted to address that. Yeah. And as well, a bit of an unfortunate situation up here for the Canadian motorsports fans, as the Camping World Truck Series will not be coming to Canada at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park for their playoff race. It's officially canceled due to COVID-19. So NASCAR has stepped in, and Darlington will take its place as the second race in the opening round of the playoffs later on this season for the Camping World Truck Series. So it's basically, it was inevitable to say the least, because we've seen it with F1 with the Canadian Grand Prix getting canceled. So it just made a lot of sense that this was going to happen. And of course, we've seen the Toronto Grand Prix for IndyCar being canceled as well. So they've had to, just get it off Canada off the schedule, really. So it's unfortunate for that, but expect to return to all three of those venues in 2022. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, anything that can happen there. But unfortunate here, but it was basically expected nonetheless.
Yeah, it was coming. It was just a matter of when they announced it. It's just not something that's feasible right now for both the race teams in terms of the vaccination situations that they're all in terms of crossing a border, which is something that costs a lot of money in terms of passports and stuff for these teams as well. And then when you look at the Canadian COVID situation, even though it is improving, there's still a lot of single doses. There's not a lot of double vaxes, all this kind of stuff. Yep. It was just an extreme long shot to be able to get it done. If there was one race that had the best shot of happening, it was probably that Truck Series race at Mosport, but just wasn't feasible this year, which is unfortunate because that race is always one for the dramatic finish in the last corner, usually just wrecking somebody, but nonetheless, a fun race.
Who it is.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunate we don't get to go there. Darlington, of course, is a great replacement, one of the best tracks on the NASCAR grid. And that first round still has a little bit of different flair as well for the Truck Series, with them going to Gateway in that first round, a bit of a difference, which we don't see all too much over the course of the Xfinity and Truck Series schedules anymore. So still a fun first round for the Truck Series playoffs. Unfortunately, we don't get that road course in the Truck Series playoffs anymore, but got to kind of deal with the cards that are played.
Darlington's not too bad of a replacement to be.
No, it's basically the best replacement you can get, really. And
it made sense for the timing and everything of the situation. So at least they did their best to try and fill that void that will be left by Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. So props to NASCAR on that decision there, and looking forward to when the Truck Series comes back to Canada and all motorsports comes back to Canada, because I really want to go to one of them. I've never gone to a Canadian event with all three top motorsports. So I think, that's definitely something on the potential cards for next year, but I can dream maybe. But I think that'll do it for the news and notes, a very short news and notes section for today. Not too much going on this past week, but we have a lot of action on the track to get to here. Kyle, let's get into our fantasy preview for the Coca-Cola 600, a huge event here, Memorial Day weekend. It's just a spectacular event put on. Unfortunately, this is like such a huge event. Usually we have the All-Star race the week prior, and that was kind of like traditional kind of Charlotte kind of experience. Fans would go there for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, visit the race shops, the drivers would put on events and whatnot. Unfortunately, that's not happening this time around due to, obvious circumstances, but at least we're still having the race here. Coca-Cola 600, we saw it last year, of course, and then we had a midweek race at Charlotte, the kind of right after it. So we had two Charlotte oval races and on top of the Roval. So we're only having the one this year, but it's still going to be a fun race nonetheless. And it's one of the last mile and a half of the season in the regular season, I believe. Is this even the last one? I'm not even 100% sure because
no, I don't know, because we have the second Atlanta race now.
Right. Okay. So then this will be the second to last one then.
Yeah, because it's pretty diverse the rest of the way. So
second to last one, apart from the All-Star race being at Texas. But
and Nashville is like kind of, but it isn't a full month. Yeah, it's 1.3. So it's a little bit different at least. But yeah, kind of kind of interesting there. It's definitely a diverse schedule. The second half of the year, the first half of the year was much more like the normal schedule we're used to for NASCAR. Second half is where it starts to get really wild with all kind of the new road courses, a few different changes with like Nashville stepping in with the Texas All-Star race. So there's a lot of differences coming up in the second half, which is at least pretty interesting coming up to see how things play out.
Yeah, it's should be fun. The Coca-Cola 600 is just like such a marquee event. It's the crown jewel. It's one of the crown jewels. And, this is one that's on every driver's bucket list to kind of win. And we'll see who ends up in victory lane come the end of 600 miles. Of course, last year's Coca-Cola 600 was the longest ever NASCAR race due to the rain delay in it. It was a prolonged experience, to say the least. But,
overtime as well. And
we saw quite the shenanigans in that one. Let's not forget that. We saw the late race caution. William Byron blows a tire. Then we come down to a decision. Chase Elliott in the lead. He pits from the lead. Brad Keselowski stays out in second, and he is the winner of the Coca-Cola 600. But Chase Elliott did get that redemption in the midweek race for the 300, I believe it was mile race, 300-kilometer race, whatever it was.
I think there's one that he'd much prefer to win, but
definitely. And then we saw the second place runner as well last year, Jimmy Johnson, get disqualified.
That's right. That's the Jimmy DQ.
Yeah, and then that's basically the reason he missed the playoffs.
So it's 100% the reason. If he had those 35 points, he would have been in by a mile. Along
with him missing the Indianapolis race due to COVID, so it was just kind of double trouble.
Or he would have had like a top 9 starting position as well. And Allgaier goes to the back because of the driver change, and then they get caught up in the pit road. And a lot of what ifs there last year for Jimmy.
Definitely. And unfortunately, Jimmy's not going to be taking part in the Indianapolis 500, but we'll look at that a little later on. Let's get to fantasy now. Who starts us off this week? Do I?
Let me double check. No, I start us off again.
You start us off?
Yeah,
well, then
because we've got the full lineup of trucks and Xfinity. So
we do practice and qualifying as well. This is
it's
back-to-back weeks. We're getting spoiled here as a NASCAR fan. Let's take it easy. We can't get ahead of ourselves. That's 2022 stuff that we're looking at. But you lead us off with the first pick.
Yeah, and this is an interesting weekend because it's the longest one. It's 550 horsepower package. So you can look at past performance at Charlotte, but we're also enough into the season where you do have enough of a sample to kind of look at performances at each different kind of track type and kind of base your decisions off of those as well. So there's a couple different routes that you can go for this weekend. And I'm going to start it off with somebody who has the second best average points haul from the 550 horsepower package races this season, has finished in the top 10 in all 4 of those as well this year. And I'm kicking it off with Kyle Busch. He's had some bad luck in the 600 in terms of going out and winning the thing in a couple different scenarios. But I think overall, given the form that he's been on this season, he won the last 550 horsepower package race as well at Kansas. Needed a little bit of help there at the end with Kyle Larson getting a little bit shoved into the wall. I had it.
All right.
I couldn't give him full credit for it. Couldn't give him full credit.
What a stage and everything. Let's pump the brakes.
Looking over the last few races at Charlotte here, 4th in the Coke 600 last year, the year prior, 3rd, the year prior, 1st, of course, in that dominant 377 lap led race. So Kyle Busch has had good form in the Coke 600 recently, given the form they've been in the 550 horsepower races this season as well. I think that's a very, very good combination for Kyle Busch this weekend.
I'm going with Kyle Busch as well this weekend. And because there's practice, baby. He gets that added bonus of setting up the car. Let's get it going. He's not in any of the other ones this weekend with the trucks or Xfinity races. So everybody that's a Kyle Busch hater, you can, take a sigh of relief that he's not going to be in either of the races this weekend. But he will be in contention for the race on Sunday evening. He's had an average finish over the last 4 races here of 9.25. One victory, obviously, with the Coca-Cola 600 back in 2019. 3 top fives, 456 laps led, the most amongst active drivers. So quite the kind of season that he's going on right now, that he's been on an upward trajectory, I would say, over the past month or so. Dover excluded. Coda, he ran well at. Kansas, of course, with the victory. He's got the momentum right now. I really like Kyle Busch this weekend. Maybe not to necessarily win, but he will definitely be up there in the top 5 when it's all said and done. I would hope so. That would be a successful day for Kyle Busch. Anything less is probably a disappointing result given what we've seen so far this season. So yeah, he's absolutely in my lineup this weekend, and I have the usages to kind of go with him. So definitely.
How many do you have left for him there?
I think I have 6.
I've got 6 as well. So I thought that's where you were, but
yeah, I've got 6 left. So
okay.
I feel comfortable with where I'm at with Kyle Busch on these kind of road courses coming up over the summer months as well. So this is definitely a full play for him this weekend. For my second selection this weekend, I'm going to double up on the Kyles because Kyle Larson is in my lineup for the Coca-Cola 600. Despite him not having the greatest numbers here, he didn't run obviously last year in either of those races. So I can't really look back to that, but it is specifically for how dominant he has been on the 1.5 mile tracks this season. This guy is bar to none. He is absolutely unmatched in terms of his overall speed, his average running position as well. He's just been lights out this year. Despite only having the one victory, he probably could have won all of the 1.5 miles, to be honest, so far this season, apart from maybe Homestead, because William Byron seemed to have the best car there. But besides that, I would say you could definitely make the case that Kyle Larson has been the guy that should have won all of those 1.5 mile tracks. And as well, he's been very good with the 550 horsepower package. Not to say that he has been bad with the 751. He's been really good with the 551. And he won the All-Star race here a couple of years ago as well. So he's done well at Charlotte, maybe not necessarily in the Coca-Cola 600, but just given how well he's performed in 2021, I can't look past the fact, as well as the 48 car that is now his new car finished second in this race last year. So I feel good about that as well. So Kyle Larson is a must play for me this weekend, despite being down to 4 usages. When I look at the upcoming schedule, I'm probably not going to be using him on road courses. So I can bite the bullet here and put him in my lineup, especially given the long distance. We could see another dominant performance, just as we saw from Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch in this race. I could see that similarly happening with Kyle Larson in this event here.
Talking about biting the bullet, well, I'm the one biting the bullet on this one because Kyle Larson is in my lineup here, but I'm down to 3 usages on him. So it's getting down to crunch time here for Kyle Larson, but there's not a ton of 550 horsepower races coming up at like the 1.5 miles. As you mentioned, this is the second last one of the year. Atlanta's the last one of the year now that has 2 dates. So again, I feel pretty comfortable about the situation with Larson. You have to play him here because it's the 550 horsepower package. It's a 600-mile race. He's won here in the past at the All-Star race. I do have some concerns about the fact that Kyle Larson hasn't really been able to close out some races. We saw, what was it, at Atlanta, I think it was, where
he
Ryan
lost
Blaney,
to Blaney
in the last handful of laps. And if you extend that by 200 miles or whatever the difference is, 100 miles. I can't remember what the distance was for Atlanta there. There is maybe some concern that Kyle Larson can have a dominant first 3 stages, then fall a little bit in the final stage here, because this is a 4-stage race, even though the first 2 stages are the only 2 that matter for fantasy reasons here.
Garage blocks after the 3rd stage, though.
Yes,
so that's key.
That is at least something there. But even if he does fall apart a little bit in the final stage, you're talking about a 2nd or 3rd place finish. So Kyle Larson, absolutely a play in this one. The usage situation maybe want to pause and let you put him in the lineup first, and then I can react to it rather than the other way around. But he's just been phenomenal. He leads the series in terms of average points haul from these 550 horsepower package tracks. He's got an average of 46.5 points out of these races. And that includes the Kansas race where he finished in late teens, early 20s after that last restart. It's been ridiculous. So Kyle Larson, absolutely in my lineup here as well.
Yeah, he's a no-brainer. Can't be overstated enough. But you go with your 3rd pick here.
To the 3rd pick. And this is a bit of a fascinating play because somehow it's fallen into my lap where my usage situation for this guy is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Every time I put him in my lineup, he has something go wrong and I take him out of the lineup. So I've got a ton of usages left for him.
That doesn't make sense.
He won the race last year in weird circumstances.
The weirdest thing.
But Brad Keselowski is in my lineup, and I have to play him here just because of the usage situation. I've got 8 usages left still on this guy. It's insane. I've put him in my lineup like 4 or 5 times, and I just end up grudging him because the times that I've picked him have been races where he has something go wrong in the first couple of stages. But I prefer him on these 550 horsepower package tracks as well. At Homestead, even with the weird strategy call, still ended up with 31 points. Vegas, he was the second most dominant car behind Kyle Larson, so he had a big points haul there. Atlanta, he had the issue, so gonna write that one off. And then at Kansas, had a good points haul there as well. So still has a good average points haul, even with that Atlanta poor finish. I like Brad Keselowski probably most out of the Penske cars at the 550 horsepower package tracks this season so far. Maybe a toss up with Ryan Blaney. Joey Logano has been definitely the third out of those guys by far so far. But you would think that maybe this is a no-brainer play because of the result last year, winning the race. But again, that's a little deceiving because he did only lead 21 laps in that race and kind of got lucky with some pit calls from other guys at the end of that race as well. He's been good at a couple of Coke 600s in the past. You look back to 2018 where he finished in the top 5 there as well, but hasn't really been dominant in recent years. So taking a bit of a risk here just because of the usage situation, but I do feel pretty good about Keselowski with kind of the form that they've been in at these 550 horsepower tracks.
Interesting. I do not have Brad Keselowski in my lineup this weekend.
Okay.
I just don't like the momentum that 2 car is really on right now. Just with the news, everything that's happening with Team Penske and the Roush Fenway rumors, I just don't quite think I can put Brad in there yet. I think that may be a bit of a distraction right now. And I don't know if Penske's really to give it all to him right now, knowing that he's most likely leaving for next season. So despite his efforts last season and winning this race, I can't quite put Brad Keselowski in my lineup this time around. I feel a little bit more questionable about him on the 1.5 mile tracks as well than probably you do.
Interesting.
I don't know why that is, but it's just it just seems like they can't quite find the clicking right now because they've only won 1 race this season at Talladega. So it's kind of a one-off kind of experience from all the other tracks we go to. So I don't know if the 2 cars been right there as much as I would have liked him to be at this point in time. But I'm going to stay away from Brad Keselowski for my fantasy lineup here. But for my, I guess, third selection here, I'm going to go with Martin Truex Jr. Just because I garaged him last week from Coda due to his poor efforts there. I've got 6 usages left on him, and after his poor results so far, basically on the road courses this season, I'm going to be abandoning my strategy of just saving him for the road courses. I'm taking full advantage of when I think I can count on Martin Truex Jr. the most, and I see him fit to succeed here in the Coca-Cola 600. He has tied for the best average finish amongst active drivers over the last 4 trips to Charlotte Motor Speedway with a 4.5 average finish, 1 victory, 2 top 5s, and 203 laps led. He's been very, very good so far this season, leading the series with most wins at 3. So I can see Martin Truex Jr. winning this race easily this weekend, and I'm going to definitely stick him in my lineup considering I have 6 usages left and we are past the halfway point in the season. This is a no-brainer play for me given my usage situation.
So I'm down to 5 with Truex. I've used him an extra time. I can't remember where it was, but I also garaged him last week. I'm undecided on Truex right now because he hasn't been dominant at these 550 horsepower tracks the same way he has at the 750 horsepower package tracks. He's been very consistent. He's finished inside the top 10 in all of these 550 horsepower races, but you're looking at 35 points, 32 points, 35 points, and then Homestead where he was really strong with 49 points. But these last 3, it's been consistently in the top 10, but it hasn't been a high-end top 10 in the conversation for the win. So I'm going to wait for Truex. That's going to be like the last one that I'm debating between. We'll see how I end up going for that one, but I'm going to hold off on him just for now because you are in the better usage situation for that one as well. You've got the extra one in hand. You can play him here and feel good about it. I'm going to go a little bit differently here and see how things play out. And it's funny you go with a certain Truex Jr. here because I'm going with his road course ringer kind of companion in Mr. Chase Elliott. Should have won the race last year. Absolutely. If it wasn't for a bad pit call by Alan Gustafson, they were the best car of the day. They should have won this race. It's a shame they didn't. They ended up getting retribution in the midweek race. But he's had some bad luck so far this season at the 550 horsepower package tracks. Look at Atlanta, where they had the engine go right after the end of stage 2, which screwed me out of a usage for him. But last time out at Kansas, had a very solid 43 points haul. They were great here last year. I like the kind of momentum they've slowly been building up. I know there's the situation going on with Eddie DeHaan. I'm not super concerned about that affecting the team mentality or anything like that going into this weekend. I like Elliott at this racetrack. I like the kind of momentum they've been building. So I'm taking the swing. Chase Elliott is in the lineup.
How many usages do you have left on him?
I have 6 left.
Okay. I am in the same boat. Similarly to Tricks for you, I'm undecided on Chase Elliott.
Okay, that could be quite the head-to-head if we don't go with either of them, I gotta say.
Yeah, this schedule is just really throwing me for a loop because I don't know what to do for a lot of plays over the summer months because it's such a new kind of topsy-turvy schedule. So I'll wait on Chase Elliott for right now.
Okay.
For my 4 selection here, I'm going to the Team Penske stable for this one. It's not Brad Keselowski. It's not Joey Logano. It's Ryan Blaney. I used an unfortunate usage last week at the at COTA. Stupid rain on the back stretch.
So what are you down to, like 6 on him then?
5, I think.
5. Ooh.
I'm down to 5 on Blaney. So not too lovely in that light, but I'm going to use him here this weekend. Average finish over the last 4 races here at Charlotte, 13.75. So not overall the greatest, but 2 top 5s. 4 laps led. I threw that in there, but it's probably during green flag pit stops or whatnot. But I think Ryan Blaney's been just a consistent guy so far this season on the 1.5 mile tracks. I think back to Vegas, he was very good. I think back to Atlanta, obviously he won the race. And then at Kansas, I think, he was a little bit disappointing considering what we kind of expected from him there. But at the end, he really showed what he could do and then got into the incident with Kyle Larson there on the restart. So I think there's definitely a lot to be gained from Ryan Blaney this weekend. He ran well in this race last season as well. So I feel really solid about Blaney in this distance. And I think he could definitely, for me, he's the favorite at Penske this weekend and not Brad Keselowski. So he's definitely going to be in my lineup as my 4th selection.
I think overall form at 550 horsepower, I give the edge to Keselowski just slightly, even though Blaney does have the win. But going into this weekend, I agree. I do think Blaney is the top Penske car, and so I also have him in my lineup here. The stats maybe are a little deceiving when you look at 550 races this year, just because that Kansas race should have been a top 5 and ended up being a late teens finish with only 24 points. So a little bit deceiving in that regard, but 57 points and the win at Atlanta, 46 points as well at Vegas. Homestead, you can write that one off. Because he had a wreck with Eric Almirola, I believe it was, in that one. So Ryan Blaney, absolutely a great play this weekend for the Coke 600, because as well, last year, 2 third-place finishes at both the Charlotte races. So some good form recently at this track coming from last year, good form in the 550 horsepower races. So Ryan Blaney, I'm matching you on that one. And I have to apologize because I got out of order there.
You did.
I forgot about the snake order, so I got out of order there. So you have the next pick here.
Gosh,
the next 2, sorry.
Oh, I go twice now in a row?
Yeah. So we've both got 4. I just added my 5th, so you go 5, 6, and then I have final pick of the snake.
Okay. Oh, brother. This is tough now. As per usual, let's stall. Gosh darn it. Okay, there's 4
is
guys.
There one that you know about, or is it like completely?
See, I don't know what you're doing for your last pick here, so this is really throwing me.
Well, neither do I. So that's a good thing.
Because you've gone for a really, really heavy hitter lineup. So yeah, I feel like I have to match you on that to an extent. So we're even through, I guess, 4 of the 5 right now.
We've both got Busch, we've both got Larson, and we've both got Blaney.
Yeah, and then you're deciding if you want to take Truex or not, and I'm deciding if I want to take Chase or not.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, I'll lock in one because I have to go back to back here, but I'll lock in this one, not necessarily for how he's been on the 1.5 mile tracks this season, but I like the car that he's in this weekend, and I think he could do some damage, and that is one Alex Bowman. He's in my lineup for the Coca-Cola 600.
A really solid play.
Average finish over the last 4 races, only a 16.5, 2 top 10s. But he has a whopping 223 laps led. Insane number there, because that's, I think, third amongst active drivers or fourth amongst active drivers. Very, very impressive laps led total there. I want to try and get a little bit of value from Alex Bowman this weekend. I have 8 usages left on him, so I have no worry about running out of usages with Bowman the Showman. But I think he's just a solid value usage here this weekend, and I wouldn't be disappointed if one of the top guys really kind of disappoints to an extent, then I could probably slot him in here. The problem with using so many big name drivers in one weekend is they can only get so many points that you'd want, because if you use Truex, Elliott, Larson, Kyle Busch all in the same weekend, well, only one of those guys could get the maximum number of points if you're really looking at it. And then, maybe another weekend, one of those guys that you did use that weekend gets the maximum points that weekend. So it's very difficult to really go with an all-out lineup, but that's my 5th selection there for my final pick for the Coca-Cola 600. There's 3 guys I'm looking at: William Byron, Chase Elliott, and Kevin Harvick. All 3 of these guys I think are very, very solid for this weekend. They could be in any of your lineups 100%. So the 2 guys that I don't take here are absolutely going to be in my honorable mentions. You can bet yourself on that. But for my last pick here, man, William Byron ran well last year at this race, up until that stupid flat tire. Harvick's been kind of disappointing on the 1.5 mile tracks, but you're using Chase Elliott. Oh, gosh darn it.
But you're using Truex.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go with Byron. I'm going to go with William Byron. I'm going to stay away from Chase Elliott for this one, just because I'm not 100% sold on him on the 1.5 mile tracks this season. I think they've been a little bit off the mark. Yes, he could go out there and win the race and have probably the maximum number of points that you could get, or have the most number of points out of anybody this weekend. But I'm going to go be safe rather than sorry. And I'll definitely try and capitalize on Chase Elliott as the regular season winds down on these road courses where he's inevitable to be a threat to win each and every one of them. So that will round out my lineup. Who's your 6th selection here? Have I messed it up? I do
have one question. Yeah. What's your usage situation on Byron? Because he's a fascinating one for me.
5.
You've got 5? Okay, I've got 5 as well. I was just wondering because he's been so consistent.
Such a good player.
He's just been so consistent everywhere, right? Yeah. So he could be a good play here. He could be good play at 750. He could be a good play on road courses, even super speedways. Like, he's been a really solid play everywhere, as shown by that incredible streak he had of top 10s, which he should have continued as well at Coda, but finished 11th. So William Byron is a very strong play, and I'm matching you on Mr. William Byron as well. I'm not going to go with the Truex route.
Wow,
and here's
5
why.
of 6. 5 of
here's
6.
Why.
Oh my God.
4 of 6.
Oh, really?
Yep. You've got Bowman, I've got Keselowski, I've got Elliott, you've got Truex. So that's quite the last one. But
shoot.
The big thing for me with Byron is he's been very similar in terms of form to Truex this season, except slightly better for most of the season at these 550 horsepower tracks. At Homestead, Byron obviously won the race, 57 points to Truex's 49. At Vegas, 40 points for Byron, 35 for Truex. At Atlanta, 36 for Byron, 32 for Truex. And then the only time that Truex has outpointed Byron so far this year at a 550 horsepower track has been Kansas, 35-34. So it's been very consistent for both of those two. All of those, obviously, top 10 performances. Byron has the win at Homestead, but you don't really apply that really to a Charlotte race. As you mentioned, was good in the Coke 600 up until that flat tire, which threw everything to hell in the last little bit of that race. But feel really strong about Hendrick Motorsports this weekend. I think any 4 of those cars could go out and win this race, including Alex Bowman, who you've got in the lineup, which I was really hoping you weren't going to do that, because I really thought about putting him in, but just in the end, I had to use that Brad Keselowski usage just because I got to start playing him, for crying out loud. But I am going to match you with William Byron. I think he could have a great day. I think he's a candidate for the pole award as well, as per usual. I think he's got a couple of those in his career at Charlotte. So pole sitter in the 2019 Coke 600. So I think he could do that. But last year pole awards didn't count, but won the draw for the 208 lap race, not the 405 lap race. So a pole sitter in the past for the Coke 600 in 2019. Last time we had qualifying here. Could we see it again this weekend? I'm not sure. I'm going to wait to see maybe where you go for your pole pick. But William Byron, I like him this weekend. I'm going to play him, even though the usages are getting low. And that rounds out my fantasy lineup here.
You're terrible. Oh God.
Well, okay. What I'll ask is, would you rather me match you on Truex or Byron?
I think for me, no, I'm happy with what you've done, to be honest. But because I think Truex, this is arguably his best mile-and-a-half track, in my opinion. Like Homestead's probably there. That's fair. I think Charlotte is nip and tuck with that. I'd say Atlanta, and Vegas are very much similar in like that secondary tier. Kansas has been hit or miss. He was definitely better there with Furniture Row than he has been with JGR. So I'll leave it a little bit down to that. But those are the ones you really look at. Texas has been kind of all over the place, to be honest, as well. It's been hit or miss. So I feel really confident in Truex this weekend, especially since we have practice and qualifying. I think that can't be, overstated enough. It is such a crucial element. And I think for the veterans as well, this is where they come to shine. This is 600 miles. This is no joke. So I think I'm happy to put Truex in there. And you kind of, take the approach of going with William Byron as well. But at the same time, I'm a bit nervous about Chase Elliott this weekend, but I'm going to go, I don't know why I've gone against it, but I have gone against it. I'm going to go with his three other Hendrick teammates, essentially, except for Chase Elliott. So it's a difficult decision, but let's look at the honorable mentions for this weekend. There's a lot, to be honest, I think you could put in your lineup, because given your usage situation, there's varying degrees of how much you've played somebody or how much you haven't played somebody, specifically Brad Keselowski for Kyle. I mean, I don't think we ever would have predicted that he'd be at that high of usages with Brad Keselowski at this point in the season. And for me, I didn't think I'd be at 8 with Alex Bowman. I thought I would have used him a little bit more than that as well. So
I think I'm like 7 or 6 with Bowman.
Yeah. For honorable mentions.
Let me double check that as you go ahead.
Yeah. Chase Elliott, clear as day for, obviously he doesn't in my lineup. He definitely could be in yours. Kevin Harvick, I think just based off of just that lack of 1.5 mile speed this season has been the only reason I didn't put him in my lineup. But over the 600 mile distance here, he could be a player at the finish. I don't know if he'll get the stage points, but when I look at my usage situation with Harvick, I think as the summer months roll along, there is some value plays for him. Specifically, Michigan a little bit later on, there's not many options at those kind of tracks. Kevin Harvick will be kind of a mainstay in those situations. Denny Hamlin as well. He's been kind of weird at Charlotte. I don't like him here per se, but he's just been so consistent this season. It's hard to say that Hamlin's going to have a poor weekend, but as the 10th best average finish on this chart that we're looking at, but for 9th active amongst active drivers. So hasn't been spectacular, hasn't been disappointing per se. I think it's going to be an average weekend for Denny Hamlin. Could get a top 5 for sure, but I don't quite see the 11 car in victory lane. And I've got how many usages left on Hamlin? 4 usages. So there's no way I can play him here this weekend. I think as well, you have a couple of underlying guys here. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Tyler Reddick, Austin Dillon, and Chris Buescher. I think all of these guys, they could be absolutely a value usage this weekend, specifically the RCR duo of Reddick and Dillon. They have been spectacularly consistent so far this season, specifically Dillon on the 1.5 mile tracks. I know he kind of fluked into a fuel mileage one here a couple of years ago to win this race, but has been steadily consistent here. They both had really good finishes in this race last season as well. So watch out for those two. I think they can make some noise. And for Stenhouse, he has a really spectacular average finish here at Charlotte, 10.75 over the last 4 races. So don't sleep on Mr. Ricky. He can maybe do something. And then as well for Chris Buescher, very good. Just consistently in the top 15. Probably won't get you stage points per se, but will get you a solid probably finish at the when the checker flag falls, because he won a stage at Homestead. I know it's a bit of a different kind of driving style for a mile and a half, but been consistently there the entire season. Can't be overlooked at all. Can be Chris Buescher. And then to round it out for the honorable mentions, Christopher Bell finished 10th in this race last season for Levine Family Racing, as well as Brad Keselowski. I mean, obviously he's in Kyle's lineup. It makes a lot of sense. He's the defending race winner. It's cut and dry why you put Brad Keselowski in your lineup. But for Christopher Bell, been a little bit disappointing on the 1.5 mile tracks this season, but I do think there is something to be had with some practice for him this weekend. Adam Stevens could get that car right for him a little bit more. That's typically what we saw last season with Kyle Busch. With Adam Stevens, they were kind of sluggish on the 1.5 mile tracks, and that's why they had such a points deficit. But now I think with some practice, we saw that last season with Kyle Busch when they had just a little bit more notes to go off of. They had a bit more of a better result as the season wound down. I could see that happening with Christopher Bell to get you a solid, maybe top 10 run at the checker flag of the Coca-Cola 600. So those are the honorable mentions for this upcoming event. The stay away froms, they're very few and far between. So who's going to win the Coca-Cola 600?
Yeah.
Joey Logano is here.
Yes.
And Kurt Busch. Just because for Kurt Busch, been very poor so far this season, outside of the top 16 in points, and is not looking spectacularly great. But, he did come out on Twitter with a banger this week with his kind of, I'm not effing leaving. So that gives me hope that Kurt Busch is not retiring at the end of the season. He's coming back for another one after there were rumors that he, there was a fake tweet put out there that I fell for. Going to be honest, I was in a panic mode for 30 seconds. But I thankfully found the source and it was false. But for Kurt Busch, it's just been disappointment after disappointment week after week, despite having some very good average finishes here. Just can't quite put the deal together so far this season. So I'm going to wait till he gets that sorted out. For Joey Logano, he has some very good numbers here, but been very poor on the 1.5 mile tracks this season. And I don't really know if that's going to change per se when I look at the competition he's against this weekend. He could definitely surprise me. He could win the damn race it's Joey Logano, but I'm going to go on the safer than sorry side and say that he's a stay away from, considering how valuable he could be on some other kind of tracks at the 751 specifically. Road courses, he could be a sneaky one considering what we've seen so far in the early parts of this season. I'm going to stay away from Joey Logano this weekend and hope for some better results later down the line through the summer months when he could be of more value to me. So that's the honorable mentions and stay away from. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think?
I especially agree on Joey Logano because I want to ask you this. What's the most points Joey Logano has scored this year at a 550 horsepower track? So Kansas, Atlanta, Las Vegas, Homestead. What's the most points, the maximum you could have gotten so far from playing Logano at a 550 track this season so far?
I'll say like 28.
30 points at Vegas. He barely got inside the top 10 there. Other than that, 16 at Homestead, 22 at Atlanta, and 20 at Kansas. And it's not even like there was incidents necessarily. At Homestead, there was the pit strategy thing, but at Atlanta and Kansas, it's not even like there was any like incidents to put them farther back. That was just the raw pace of that car. So they've been heavily focused on 750 horsepower package tracks and kind of road courses, that kind of stuff. It makes a lot of sense when you look at where the championship race is. But for Logano, you got to see it before you can start playing them at these 550. And honestly, there's not a ton of these left. You're looking at like Pocono, Nashville, and Atlanta. I think that's all of them. There might be one that I'm forgetting in there for the 550 package,
isn't it?
Oh, right. Because it's under, it's 750 because it's like that Darlington kind of in between. Yeah. So they decided to do it. So not even that one there. So not a lot of 550 horsepower tracks to look at the rest of the way. So save Logano for the other ones. I will say for the honorable mentions, quite like Chris Buescher in that one, because he's got back-to-back top 10, surprisingly, at the Coke 600, 6th a couple years back with JTG, and then 10th last year with Roush Fenway, especially when you look at the form that they've been on.
Okay, yeah. When I looked at the running order, I remember I forgot that Johnson's DQ pushed everybody up. So Bell finished 9th, Buescher 10th. My apologies.
Yeah. Hey, it's all good. It's all good. But yeah, for Buescher, been very consistent at the 550 horsepower tracks this year. I thought about using him if I wanted to have a more conservative entry, but
such a hard play,
I went all the way. Yeah.
It's so hard to play some of these value guys because they could, absolutely knock your socks off, but at the same time, they could be like, they could just not show up. So, and when you look at some of the guys that are more premier talents or have better equipment, they're most likely going to show up more on a percentage basis.
Roush has been quite good at the 550 tracks this year. For Buescher, 35 points at Atlanta, top 10, 29 points at Kansas, top 10, 33 points at Homestead with the stage win, and then 23 at Vegas. So they've been consistent, maybe not like the super high end, which obviously you're not anticipating if you're playing a more conservative play, but don't hate the Buescher play. And I'm excited to see where he kind of lands in the running order this weekend, because with the way that they've been running and the way that he is at this track, could be an interesting combo to be maybe a surprise top 10 or maybe even push for a top 10 run, but we'll see.
Absolutely. Let's get to the bonus pick, shall we?
Let's do it.
Who goes first?
I do.
Okay.
I'd lead things off for the Chevrolets here. And this is an interesting one. And I think this is the one that I actually had the most difficulty with because I feel really good about all those Hendrick cars. I think any of them could very easily go out and not only be the top Chevrolet, but also win the thing. You look at Bowman, led a ton of laps in his career so far at Charlotte, and even last year as well before they got into the wall and had some of the issues there. Byron has been super consistent this year. Larson has been the fastest 550 horsepower car. And then Chase Elliott should have won the race last year, was the dominant guy. Pit strategy screwed him out of the win, and then he won the second race at Charlotte last year. So a lot of different routes you can go. I am going to take the gamble, though, on Chase Elliott at the end of the day as the top Chevrolet. I can see reasons to go with any of those other Hendrick guys, but I'm going to double down with Chase Elliott here and say that he's going to be there at the end of the race, and for that, be the top Chevrolet.
I'm not going with Chase Elliott. I'm going with his teammate, Kyle Larson. It's the low-hanging fruit, but I'm going to take it just because it is low hanging fruit. I'm going to take the obvious pick here and be safe rather than sorry. And I feel pretty confident in Larson this weekend. It is a little bit interesting. Like he hasn't quite put together a full 600 in the past with Ganassi, but I think we're just seeing a different Kyle Larson this season. So I think he's the one anomaly when I look back at his old kind of stats. He's just on a different level right now. So it's hard to look back at his previous results and say, I don't know if I can put Kyle Larson here. I'm looking purely based off of 2021 speed. So I'm going to go with him as my top Chevrolet. For top Ford, this is an interesting one as well. You could go with Keselowski, you could go with Harvick, but I'm going with Ryan Blaney for this one. I feel pretty confident in the 12 car. I think he could be maybe one of those upset kind of candidates this weekend, to be honest. I think a top 3 is definitely on the cards for the 12 car this weekend, but I see him being just that little bit ahead of his teammates and Harvick to take that kind of top Ford finisher. But knowing this category, Logano's going to freaking win it again. So take him.
What I will say is that I definitely don't think that'll be the case this weekend because it's a 550 track. I also feel very good about Ryan Blaney this weekend, so he is going to be my top Ford. I'm not going to go the Keselowski route. The form last year, 2 third-place finishes, the form they've been in this year, I really like Blaney this weekend, so I'm going with him for top Ford as well. Now we get to Toyota, and this is another interesting one because you've got Kyle Busch, you've got Martin Truex Jr., you've even got Denny Hamlin, who we don't play here, but could we think that he's going to be good and be there at the end and maybe save the usage, play him here? That's not the route I'm going for this one. I'm also not going with Truex. I'm going to take the swing on Kyle Busch with the form that they've been in this year. Feel really solid about him this weekend, so I'm going Kyle Busch as the top Toyota.
Why? Why did you have to pick him? Like, Oh God, you grind my gears, man. You drive me nuts with this stuff. Yeah, I'm taking Kyle Busch as well for my top Toyota. Okay. I thought I could go a little bit sneaky there with that one. You take Truex, but you know, clearly not. That's a bummer.
No, sir.
That's a real bummer. But yeah,
you're really hoping for that one.
Yeah, I really wanted that one. After I got Larson, I'm like, oh, maybe I could get, Kyle Busch too here if he's going to go with Elliott and Truex.
No chance.
No chance for Mr. Cushman on this one. But yeah, he's a no-brainer for me this weekend for top Toyota. Yep. He and Truex, I think they'll be very, very close in terms of, raw speed, but Kyle Busch has been pretty consistent so far on these 1.5 mile tracks this season. So,
and he's been a step ahead of Truex the entire way.
So I'll say that he gets it done this weekend, and you gotta love that practice. So winning manufacturer, this is really tough because I could see it going a lot of different ways this weekend.
Are you going all in? You spreading it out?
This is the problem because I get first winner pick here, so that's a nice added bonus. But it's so difficult with 600 miles to say, boom, I'm going all in because so much could happen. Something could happen right at the end. We saw it last year. Imagine last year, you have Chase Elliott, and you're like, okay, I'm going with Chevrolet and I'm going with Hendrick, and boom, he loses it all there at the end, and you lose like a bountiful number of points there that could, make or break kind of your week, if you will, for fantasy. So it's just a risk like that. Fuel mileage could come into play as well in this one. So I'm a scaredy cat. I'm not going all in on everything this weekend. So for my winning manufacturer, I'm going to go with Toyota. I think they could do it this weekend, namely Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. I think those are the two guys that I'm looking at. I'm really limiting myself with the manufacturer, but I'm going to be, I don't quite see the Ford camp having that, raw speed to compete with the Chevrolet or the Toyota this weekend. I think Blaney will be the one kind of exception to that. But I'm going to go with Toyota and not go with all my eggs in one basket. You can kind of predict on where I'm going with the winning manufacturer as a result. But there you go. That's my winning manufacturer.
Well, for manufacturer, I'm not going the Toyota route. I am going to go the Chevrolet route.
Yeah.
And I am doubling down as Hendrick will be my winning organization. Look, there's one organization where we've got all four cars represented across our two lineups, and that is Hendrick Motorsports. I've got Chase Elliott, you've got Alex Bowman, we've got the other two as well in our lineup. So I feel good about them this weekend. Hendrick and Chevrolet in the lineup here. I'm doubling down.
Yeah, I'm going with Hendrick as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fairly self-explanatory. Just they've been so good, and they are the one team that has all four guys absolutely in contention to win this weekend.
For sure.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are the favorite in terms of winning this race overall as an organization this weekend. So, yeah, makes sense that I'm going with Hendrick Motorsports for that one. I get first pick for Truck Series as well.
Into the winner picks.
We're into the winner picks. We're going to do the pole winner as well after the Cup Series winner pick, so that doesn't really affect this kind of order. So you get first pick for Xfinity, but for the Truck Series, I'm going a little bit off the board here. While, it may look like John Hunter Nemechek looks to be fast in practice, he did kind of get into that PJ1. And let me tell you, Truck Series practice was absolutely nuts.
A tire fire.
Everybody going to a backup truck. It was just everywhere you looked, it was chaos. But he did look really good on the timing sheets, but I'm not going to go with John Hunter Nemechek here for this one. Austin Hill as well could be a very good play this weekend for the Truck Series, but I'm going to go with one Matt Crafton. I don't know why. I just have a funny feeling about this guy here this weekend, and I wanted to go a little bit different. I usually go with like the safe bets for the Xfinity and Truck Series, but why not? It's the Coke 600 weekend. Let's go all out. I'll say Matt Crafton gets his first victory of 2021 in the Menards Ford for ThorSport.
Well, I'll gladly take John Hunter Nemechek falling into my lap here. I don't think there's really too much you really need to say about it. The PJ1 was ice this morning, so we'll see how that plays out for the race. A couple of practice sessions qualifying, get on there. We'll see how things go. Speaking of practice as well, Xfinity practice wrapped up, and Riley Herbst finished.
They actually got a practice in?
Yeah, P1 for Riley Herbst there atop the board, which is an interesting one for Xfinity there.
I got to look at these practice times quickly.
But for the truck series here, John Hunter Nemechek, not really much to say about it. But because you went slightly off the board for your trucks pick, I will honor it as well. And I'll go slightly off the board for my Xfinity series pick here. And while you said first pick of the season, that's not enough for me. I'm going first win of his career. Daniel Hemrick gets his first win at Charlotte this weekend. The Joe Gibbs car looks fast. I actually made this pick before seeing the practice times, but he was P2 in practice times. He was good here last year in the conversation for the win with the number 8 junior motorsports car last year at Charlotte as well. I'm going to say Daniel Hemrick gets it done for JGR and gets that first win of the season here.
No chance. No shot. Okay. The guy chokes like nobody's business. Yeah, clip it up. Then he wins in victory.
I can't wait for him to win.
But I said it in our preseason thing. I'm like, he's going to be my biggest disappointment this season because he's not going to win a race. And
should we talk about the surprise or bounce back driver he had there in Riley Herbst and how well he's done this year? Or?
Don't. Fastest in practice. You can't talk right now. Look, he's ahead of your guy right now. Fastest in practice. He's turning it around. Okay. I'm calling it here. Okay. I'm not going to go as bold though.
Brandon Brown and points, but no.
Flagging on Brandon Brown, but yeah, I understand.
He's in a
okay. We're not going to get into this.
We're not doing that. Who's your Xfinity pick here?
The Xfinity Series winner pick. It's also fun weekend here because it's the drivers only broadcast for the Xfinity Series race as well. So
I forgot about that.
We'll see how they kind of cope with that. I think Harvick's in the booth for this one along with Keselowski, but there's a couple of guys.
Harvick's on play-by-play, right?
I think so.
Something like that.
Yeah. So he hasn't done anything so far this season, but good to see him back in the booth. And, it's always kind of interesting to see your drivers commentate on other drivers. But for my Xfinity Series winner pick, I'm going to go with the guy who's going to get his first victory of the season, Noah Gragson. I'm going to go with him. Despite looking at the practice times, I'm not going to get too swayed by that. I'm going to say that.
Oh, really?
Despite, I know it's a bit of an odd weekend here for Mr. Wacker. Down in 20th in the practice times, I'm not too worried about it. I think, Gragson can get the high line kind of ripping, and he's always been pretty good on the 1.5 mile track. So I'll say that he gets it done this weekend. Probably he won't, but whatever. I don't care about getting this one wrong. It's the Cup Series one that really matters the most at the end of the day.
It does.
Yeah, 15 added points. And as much as I love having the power here to go first and making a selection, it worked out last week with taking the obvious pick with Chase Elliott. I would much rather be in your shoes because that means that I won the previous week. So it's an enviable position for at least for me looking at you. But for the Cup Series winner pick, there's a lot of different options you could go with here. There's so many options in terms of Toyota. You can go with Ryan Blaney if you wanted to, or Keselowski from the Penske stable. Harvick could be an oddball play, but I'm looking at the Hendrick Motorsports stable to win the Coca-Cola 600 this weekend. And you can go with any of them, as we've kind of said throughout this episode. But for me, I'm going to go with a guy that's never won the Coca-Cola 600 before. And that's all 4 of them. They never won the Coca-Cola 600 before.
I was going to say that doesn't narrow it down.
I'm leaving it on your toes here. But I'm going to go with Kyle Larson. He's going to win the race this weekend. Finally going to seal the deal on the 1.5 mile track, despite being this kind of long absence, if you will, since Las Vegas. I think he gets his second victory of the season. It's been long overdue, and it would be such a great moment for him to win it this weekend. And it's great to see all the patriotic paint schemes as well this weekend. Cool to see, everybody getting into the spirit of that with the red, white, and blue schemes. But for Kyle Larson, I think he's probably going to be running the Ricky Hendrick tribute car. I could see that being a nice little addition to victory lane in the red, white, and blue scheme, despite it not being, necessarily a patriotic scheme. But Kyle Larson is my pick to win the Coca-Cola 600.
I think Kyle Larson will lead the most laps. I think he will win at least 2 stages. I don't think he will win the race. The win will go to the rightful winner from last year, Chase Elliott gets it done in back-to-back weekends.
I
Chase
hope you're
Elliott
wrong
will
on this,
win
because
the
good
Coca-Cola
Lord,
600.
if he wins this week and I have the chance to put him on my lineup, I'm going to be absolutely livid. I'm going to be livid.
Well,
oh
I hate to break it
God.
to you, because you're going to be livid this weekend. They've got the form rolling up. News and stuff aside, I think that they'll be able to battle through that. I like Chase Elliott this weekend a lot. So Chase Elliott will be your Coca-Cola 600 winner for the year 2021. And I can't remember, did Bill ever win a Coke 600?
Who?
Bill Elliott. Did he?
I'm not sure.
I don't think he did, which of course would mean that
He'd be the first
Chase
Elliott.
becomes the first Elliott to win the Coke 600. I'll double check that quickly if I can. But I don't believe he ever did. So Chase Elliott will get it done for the Elliott family this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good pick. Like, you can't go wrong with, I don't think, either of them, to be honest. They all make
I do think we'll get a Hendrick winner, whether it's the two that we picked or Bowman goes out and gets the win that he maybe should have got last year had he not got into the wall. Maybe William Byron goes out and gets another win this season. I think that there's a lot of different ways that you can go for Hendrick Motorsports here.
Absolutely. Let's give ourselves a poll pick, shall we? You get first pick with this one. Who are you thinking is going to qualify on pole for the Coke 600?
He is a qualifying ace. I picked him last time. He's the most recent pole award winner at the Coke 600 in 2019.
I'm going to have to re-rack.
William Byron gets it done for Hendrick Motorsports, winning the pole award this weekend. I apologize for taking your pick there, but Willie B gets it done. I mean, it's the 550 package, so I mean, like, everyone will be within like a half tenth of each other, but you know. Are you going the Hendrick route? You're going elsewhere? What are you thinking?
What a joke. This is I don't like this anymore. This is getting ridiculous. I don't know. Give me Cody Ware on the pole.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Seriously, I'll go with Ryan Blaney. I'll say he gets on the pole.
Okay. I think there's a slightly better shout than Cody Ware, but
I'd be interested to know the odds on Cody Ware, though. See what kind of long ball odds
10,000 to 1 probably.
Yeah, if they just like send him out for if he gets like first qualifying lap and then it just gets rained out, that would be just so typical.
I don't even think he's in the 51 this week, and I'm pretty sure he's in the 53. So
yeah,
it's not even like he's not even in the best Rick Ware car.
No. But you know, a guy can dream. But you know, Ware's on a different kind of looking. Well, he's got different priorities this weekend with the Indy 500. So
yeah, that's true
in that sense.
So yeah, it's 100,000 to 1.
It's
for Cody Ware.
Long shot for sure, but can never count out the underdog. But I think that'll do it for the kind of weekend preview here for specifically the fantasy preview for the Coca-Cola 600. Shall we go through our lineups one last time, Kyle, to remind the viewers of what we got?
Do it. Do you want to kick things off, or do you want me to?
I can go first. Okay. So for me this weekend, I've got Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, and the Hendrick duo of Alex Bowman and William Byron to complete my lineup. And then for my bonus picks for the top Chevrolet, I've gone with Kyle Larson, top Ford, Ryan Blaney, top Toyota, Kyle Busch, the winning organization, Hendrick Motorsports, and the winning manufacturer, Toyota. And then for the truck series, I'm going with Matt Crafton, the Xfinity series, Noah Gragson, your pole sitter for the Coca-Cola 600, Ryan Blaney, unfortunately did not get William Byron. And then for the Cup Series winner, I'm going to go with Kyle Larson to get it done.
Alrighty, I've got Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, and William Byron the same in our lineup, going different with Brad Keselowski and Chase Elliott in the lineups there. Quite the difference there between Truex and Elliott. We'll see how things play out. And honestly, Keselowski and Bowman as well. A couple of very, very fascinating battles to watch this weekend. For the bonus picks, I'm going Chase Elliott, top Chevy, Ryan Blaney, top Ford, Toyota, Kyle Busch. For the manufacturer and organization, doubling down, going Chevrolet and Hendrick, which means the overall winner for the Coke 600, Chase Elliott, doubling down on that. The other winner picks, John Hunter Nemechek for trucks, Daniel Hemrick gets it done finally in the Xfinity series, and Willie B will sit on the pole for your Coca-Cola 600.
I like it. It's going to be a great weekend at Charlotte Motor Speedway, no doubt.
Looking forward to
underway this evening, probably by the time you're watching this, to be honest, around that time. So looking forward to that, getting things kicked off, and then we go from there with Saturday Xfinity Series race and the Coca-Cola 600 on Sunday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern on Fox. So make sure you tune in for that one. It should be a fun one to tune into. But let's get into probably the biggest one of the weekend and biggest one of the calendar year, the Indianapolis 500, the 105th running of this historic event on the Yard of Bricks. Just your overall thoughts maybe coming into this weekend, Kyle. It's been fairly interesting to see the practice times and whatnot. We just had Carb Day wrap up before we recorded this, so we have a little bit more of a closer sense to what we could see in terms of weather and who's looking good after the final practice session of the weekend going into the Sunday race for the ultimate prize and who gets to drink the milk.
Yeah, I am so pumped for this Indy 500. Not only is it back in May, you've got a bunch of fans back as well. You've got a really exciting grid of former winners, veterans, and some really good cars. You've got Honda kind of looking like the favorite for this weekend, but the Chevys with better fuel mileage. So if you get to a fuel mileage situation, could we see something like that? Got a couple interesting rookies in the field, specifically Scott McLaughlin, who looks like he's the leading Penske as well. So there's so many great different storylines, fun things to watch this weekend. I'm so pumped because as per usual with the Indy 500, it's a pretty wide open field. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at the race playing out, favorites, different winner picks. There's a lot of really fun stuff this weekend.
Yeah, we've seen track position become an even more important part of this race, specifically in the last couple of years. So qualifying was of added emphasis, and we have Scott Dixon on pole there for Chip Ganassi Racing, and he's kind of been the clear-cut favorite in terms of practice speeds and qualifying and everything that we've seen. Led Carb Day as well today, so it just seems like that car is very much on rails, and it's going to be tough for the competition to beat him. And he's out for revenge again this year after finishing second last year to Takuma Sato and that really kind of crazy end of the race before it kind of finished under the red flag, unfortunately. So hopefully we don't get that to happen this time around. We hopefully see a green flag run to the checkered flags. Yeah, like you said, we got some interesting names in this one. Juan Pablo Montoya, great to see him back in the Indianapolis 500 grid. No Fernando Alonso, of course, this season for obvious reasons. So I'll take Juan Pablo Montoya and switch him out for Fernando Alonso. But lots of cool things. Simona Di Silvestro made the Indianapolis 500 field as well. So that was awesome to see. She is starting from the back end of the grid in last place, but still an amazing accomplishment for that team to make the field. Will Power almost missed out on the Indianapolis 500 field after very,
pretty sketchy qualifying run there.
Yeah, it was nip and tuck for him for quite some time, but he's starting at the back end on the last row as well in 30 seconds. So he looked good in the last practice session though, so he could be a big mover throughout the race. It's going to take a lot for him to get up at the front by the end of this one, but watch out for Will Power, of course. A premier veteran of this series. He could be one to watch for sure. And it's just a solid overall grid to what could be a spectacular running of the Indianapolis 500. Tony Kanaan up there in 5th position for qualifying for the obvious Jimmy Johnson kind of replacement for this weekend. Jimmy Johnson not running the ovals there for Chip Ganassi Racing in the 48 car. So Tony Kanaan, a open wheel vet, is going to be definitely one to watch. And that would be an amazing storyline if he could end up winning this one.
He's quick too, man.
Yeah, he looks really good. And then one thing on Juan Pablo Montoya, of course, he is the one that chose chocolate milk as his drink if he wins this one. That would be absolutely awesome if he could pull that off and I see some chocolate milk at the end of this one. But anybody that you're really looking forward to watching this weekend, specifically, Kyle, anybody that really stands out to you that could be a potential upset surprise, or just overall who you're looking at to just for entertainment purposes at the Indianapolis 500?
Yeah, so I think the big one that stands out kind of for both of those is Elliot Castroneves in the 06 Meyer-Shank car. The Hondas have looked really fast. There's some Andretti ties as well to that car. This is also the first time at the Indy 500 that Castroneves isn't with Team Penske. So this is a very different situation for him. Looked very strong in the Fast 9 as well in qualifying. I think he's going to be a fascinating name to watch throughout this race as kind of the leading Meyer-Shank car at this Indy 500. Other than that, you're probably looking at some of the Chevys and how they kind of mix into the overall conversation for the win, whether that's the Ed Carpenter duo of Ed Carpenter himself and the Indy GP winner of Rinus VeeKay as well, who's looking to do the Simon Pagenaud thing of win the Grand Prix and the 500 in the same weekend. Of course, didn't get the pole award there for that one.
Yeah.
Other than that, looking down the field, I think the other big question is what happens with those Penske cars. They didn't look great in terms of single lap or qualifying speed. Scott McLaughlin was your leading qualifier for that group of 17th. You had Will Power barely make it in on bump day in 30 seconds. Simona Di Silvestro, kind of the extra Penske car with some ties there, the Penske prepared car, the last car into the grid. So don't know what to expect from them, whether it's going to be a strategy play, whether they have maybe some more speed in the middle of the pack. I think it's probably more to a strategy play for Penske, but I think those are probably the two either upset or storylines that I'm watching for. Castroneves, just because of obviously the storyline with Meyer-Shank, a smaller team versus some of the others. Hondas look really good. First race at this first Indy 500 without Penske, and then the Penskes as well, and see what they do here as well. Of course, you've got your Juan Pablo Montoyas and everything like that as well. Ferrucci coming back for the Indy 500 after he's been fantastic so far in his career. But I think those are the ones to watch. And then you've got kind of your front runners. You've got your Chip Ganassi, you've got your Andretti. I think those are probably the two is going to come down to at the end of the day. We'll see how things play out between those two. But I think that's kind of the overall kind of look at things here.
Are you thinking, what are you thinking in terms of first-time winner? Do you think we see that this weekend, or do we have a repeat winner? Not to see your prediction per se, but if you were to weigh your odds, are you going with the veterans, or are you going with kind of the younger or the youth with IndyCar here with the first-time winner?
So I think there's 3 or 4 that I have as kind of like my like top group of picks, and of those, I think 3 or 4 of those are past winners. I think that there's a couple of guys that could look to potentially win their first Indy 500, but usually, as is the case with the Indy 500, it's the veterans that usually come out to play. And I think that's going to be a lot of the case. I think there will be a couple of those first time potential winners up in the mix, but I'm looking at your Scott Dixon, obviously, as the pole award winner, but also Castroneves with that Meyer-Shank car, Alex Rossi, Takuma Sato, of course, who didn't have the greatest qualifying, but does have that Honda power, looks good in overall pace. I think those are probably some of those guys that you're looking at to be your true favorites as your past winners as well.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that one. It's just a great overall event. Like the having fans back at this one's going to be so cool, and it's going to be the largest spectator event that we've seen since the pandemic's hit. So that's an added bonus for this. And you know, it's the fact that it's like barely at half capacity is just an insane thing to comprehend. But there's so many different storylines really to watch here. The veterans are going to be very tough to beat, but the youth has been so strong to start this season as well. We've seen Rinus VeeKay, Alex Palou, Colton Herta all up in a victory lane so far. So could be some interesting kind of dynamics between the veterans and the youth. And, you know, we've seen it kind of with NASCAR over the last couple of years with the youth movement really coming in. We're starting to see it a bit more now in IndyCar, and these guys getting these prime rides with, you know, your Chip Ganassi's, Penske's, Andretti's and whatnot. And they're really starting to take it to these guys that have, you know, been the dominant force for many years. So curious to see how it all plays out for the Indianapolis 500. Should be a fun one. It's going to be starting, I believe, at 12:45 Eastern, if I'm not mistaken, for the green flag. So going to be right up early in the morning for myself here on the West Coast, but going to be prime time out there on the East Coast for yourself. And I'll be getting up no matter what time it is for the Indianapolis 500.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
Anything else you want to add before we look at our winner picks and round out the episode?
Sure. One last thing that I think is fun to add as well is Pietro Fittipaldi returning the Fittipaldi name in IndyCar, Indy 500, making his first start here in the Indy 500 in that 51 Dale Coyne Rick Ware car that's usually driven on the road courses by Romain Grosjean. Very interesting that it is those two names that ended up sharing the seat, just given everything that happened at the end of last year in the Formula One season. But interested to see how he does. I hope he can have a nice clean race and maybe pick up a top 10 there. Honda power as well, so should be the favorable engine supplier there. Other than that, James Hinchcliffe in the Andretti again, of course. Got to support the Canadian boys. Not the greatest qualifying effort down in 16th, but Andretti's do look good. We'll see how things play out with strategy. So hoping for a nice run for Hinch here this weekend.
Yes, that should be, we got to always cheer on our Canadians.
Of course.
It's the rightful thing to do on this show, but let's round up the episode with our Indianapolis 500 winner picks.
And you have the first pick as well.
Yeah, because you got first pole position. Honestly, I'd rather have...
Hey, you know what? You need all the help you get with all of these points, I got to say.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Takuma Sato, the defending race winner of this one as well, hasn't quite gotten the full year to celebrate as an Indianapolis 500 winner. Obviously, this coming back in late August last year when this race was run in 2020. So we'll see if he can go out there and do the double. I don't see that happening this weekend just based off of the pace that I've seen from him so far. I think it's a bit of a long shot, but there's a lot of great candidates up at the front. Scott Dixon is clearly the favorite coming into this one, not only for his history at this track and being a former winner here, but how fast he's been throughout the weeks leading up to this incredible event. I would love to go with Graham Rahal. He ran well here last year, but the pace just hasn't quite been there in qualifying in single car speed. So I can't quite go with him. As I mentioned off the top, track position is an extremely important part of the Indianapolis 500. It seems lately it's been difficult to overtake. So drivers have been very, very strategic in terms of how they want to place their cars going into the turns. And we saw that in practice today with Santino Ferrucci and Connor Daly having a little bit of a squabble I think Connor Daly was a little bit out of his depth in terms of making a claim like that, but I'll let bygones be good bygones. But for my Indianapolis 500 winner pick, I'm going to go with a former race winner for this one. I'm going to say veteran takes the youth here, and I'm going to the Andretti Autosport camp for this one. Okay. So it's a former winner pick. Ryan Hunter-Reay gets it done. Yeah, he hasn't had a great season so far. I could see this being the tipping point in terms of trying to get a little bit momentum back. I remember watching that DHL yellow bright car when he won it a couple of years. It's been more than a couple years ago, but
2014.
It's been quite some time, but I think Ryan Hunter-Reay has the tools to get it done. I like that lucky number 7 starting position. He could be a nice force to be reckoned with here, and I think he could do it with a little bit of help from his teammates as well. So Ryan Hunter-Reay wins the Indianapolis 500 in 2021.
I like that pick, and I'm going to go a little bit different with it. I'm going to give you my top 5 favorites leading up to my overall pick. Okay. Number 5 in terms of my favorites, I've still got Takuma Sato, still got that Honda power. RLL didn't have the greatest qualifying runs, but I still think that they're going to be threats for the win, just given how consistent they've been over the last handful of years at the Indy 500. So defending winner Takuma Sato, he's my number 5 overall. Number 4 is actually, in fact, Ryan Hunter-Reay there. Number 4, quiet so far over the entire month of May, but that's kind of what you like from some past winners. Consistent, not flashy, just kind of in the conversation there, and quietly ended up being the number 2 qualifying Andretti car as well. So very interested to see how his race goes. Number 3, maybe a little bit surprisingly, Scott Dixon. I think that he's got the leading car.
Interesting.
In terms of being out front in clean air. I'm a little hesitant as to what happens if he drops back a couple of places, if he can make those up. I think last year they kind of galaxy brained it a little bit, trying to save as much fuel as they could, and ended up costing themselves the win when they gave Takuma Sato the lead and either didn't get it back or didn't have the opportunity to with the late caution and all that kind of stuff. I think this year we'll see them just kind of stay out front as long as they can and see maybe how the race plays out in that regard. So Scott Dixon is number 3 for me. Number 2, even though we didn't make the Fast 9, he's just always in the conversation, and that's Alexander Rossi. I think that they're starting to maybe trend in a better direction. Indy 500 has always been a great place for him. Of course, the upset victory in the 100th running. But I got to say, I really like him this weekend, but that leads up to the number 1. And of course, I've named a couple of Andretti cars so far. I do think that they're the favorites overall. I do think we get a first-time winner, and not just that, the youngest winner in Indy 500 history. Wow. Colton Herta gets it done for Andretti. I really, really like him the entire month of May. He's been consistently at the top of the charts, qualified P2. I think he's got a great race car. I think he's got a great car in single run kind of out front speed. So Colton Herta, I'm going to say, gets it done this weekend to become the youngest Indy 500 winner of all time. Colton
I love
Herta.
it. I love it. I think it's a great pick. I was definitely looking at him. You know, I just have such a tough time. I think it's just mentally for me. I don't know why. With going with youth, first of all, and second of all, going with guys that start so high up. I just have something, you know, I have like this sweet spot from the kind of 7th to 12th range that I really like to look at.
Makes sense.
They're the guys that don't quite have that, you know, boom, one lap or, you know, the 4 average lap speed, but they're just so consistently good, and they could be just a threat to win, and they're so ready to pounce at any time. They're really strategic in terms of timing their moves correctly. That's what really comes down to at Indy. The veteran experience usually does pay off, but that's why Colton Herta, we could definitely see him being the youngest winner for the Indianapolis 500 this weekend, and that would be a great story.
He's got a damn good shot at it. I gotta say, the Andretti's look really good. He's looked really good so far. He's had some bad luck so far in his Indy 500 career, but I believe this is his last shot to get it done, given his birthday. He's 21 right now. The record is Troy Ruttman, who did it when he was 22 and some change. So if he's going to get that record, this is the year to do it. He's got Brian Herta there, who's an excellent strategist as well. So we'll see if that comes into play. But I'm just feeling good about Herta this season. He's got the win at St. Pete. He had all the IndyCar rumors, the F1 rumors, or just kind of conversation as to whether he could make that move into the future. Gets that extension with Andretti. I'm just feeling a lot of positive vibes from that 26. I think that this might be the time for Mr. Colton Herta.
Good. You swung me. You made a good case.
Good about him, man.
You made a good case. I'm really looking forward to it.
I think it's going to be an excellent race. Even if you're like a casual motorsports fan or you don't really watch any racing, if you're going to watch one race at all throughout the year, I think the Indy 500 has got to be it, because you're talking about fast cars. You're talking about drivers on the edge the entire time. And most of the time you're talking about close finishes as well. It's the perfect trifecta that you could possibly hope for out of a race. Oh yeah. And it's one of the crown jewels in the entirety of motorsports as well.
Yeah, that's just a little bit of an added bonus there. Maybe tune in for this one. Should be a good one. We've got a great all-star lineup in terms of the broadcast as well. Great to see, you know, some of the NASCAR guys coming over for this. Steve Letarte we have there, Jimmy Johnson, Danica Patrick, all of those familiar faces coming over there for the broadcast. So pre-race should be interesting. Obviously, the race should be interesting. And Sunday overall should be interesting because we have the Coca-Cola 600 to round that all out. Unfortunately, we don't have Monaco this time around to make it the greatest day in motorsports, but we'll take what we can get.
It's still pretty close.
It's still pretty close. But any final thoughts before we wrap up yet another episode here, Kyle?
Just quickly on the media side of things, Mike Tirico, one of the best hosts in the business, of course, will be back with the Indy 500, and the fact that you've got Mike Tirico, Jimmy Johnson, and Danica Patrick all kind of on a panel together. Sign me up, because that's incredible. But just so pumped for this weekend. Indy 500, as I've said multiple times, is my favorite race of the calendar. So really looking forward to that one with all the storylines, all the big names involved. I'm super excited for that race. And then the Coke 600 as well. I know some people kind of get tired of it a little bit given the race length and how long it is, but I do appreciate the history of it. The fact that it is a NASCAR crown jewel, the endurance it takes to drive a race car for that long on the edge with so many close competitors with this 550 horsepower package as well.
Restarts
in theory, keeping things closer. Restarts are nuts. We'll see what happens come the end of the race, but very much looking forward to this entire weekend of motorsports.
Absolutely. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Green Flag Pod, as well as Twitter at The Green Flag Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. We'd really appreciate it. We're closing in on 100 subscribers, so thank you all so much for your support. Hopefully we hit that within the next couple of weeks, but going to be a fun one nonetheless. Myself and Kyle will have you recap for the Indianapolis 500 right after the race on Sunday, so make sure you come back for that. But for this episode, I've been Lukas Wacker. He's been Kyle Cushman, signing off for now. We will talk to you very soon, and hopefully in glorious fashion after yet another great day of motorsports. Enjoy the Indianapolis 500 and enjoy the Coca-Cola 600, everybody.